Hello friends, it's Cassie and welcome back to my YouTube channel for another video. Today we are going to be celebrating the March 2024 release for Trinity stamps, and it's a video hop. So this is the product I'm going to be using. This is an oldie but a goodie. It's been brought back out of the vault. It's called Dir-tea Bunny, and I love this one. This is one of the first sets that I ever received from Trinity stamps when I first found them. I love this one. It's so stinking cute. All those great sentiments you can put on the coffee cup, and the die even cuts around his little hands so that he can hold things like the coffee cup or even other things that you might have in your stash. So this is adorable. I'm really excited to play with this one and bring it back. All right, we're also going to be using the Punny Cup of Tea stamp set that was released a little while ago. And then we also have our Superstar stencil. This one is absolutely one of my favorites. I use it often. And I'm going to bring in some mixed media paper. I know I've been slightly obsessed lately with mixed media and distress inks, but this just seemed like the perfect technique to use for sure for this stamp set. So I've got some Scorched timber that I've put onto my mat. I just sprayed a little bit of it on there, distress spray stain. I just want this background to look dirty. So what better way to do it? And this mixed media paper is perfect for, water and things like that. So you wouldn't necessarily have to use watercolor paper. That's why this stuff is so great. Because if you try to use your regular cardstock, you are definitely not going to get the same result. In fact, it'll ruin the paper. So now what I want to do before I am going to use my stencil, I am going to try out, just to make sure that everything is nice and dry. And in this case, it isn't. So I dumped some of my Distress Embossing Glaze over the top, which is another new obsession of mine. I know, I'm late to the party, but I'm using an anti-static powder tool on that and testing just to make sure that everything is good and dry, that nothing's going to stick where I don't want it to. And I think we're there. So I'll use that anti-static powder tool one more time because I already rubbed my fingers all across it. And then we're going to tack this down with a little bit of mint tape onto my tonic platform. And then I'll use my stencil, which is that Superstar stencil. I'm going to tack that down with some magnets. And then we're going to use a blending brush along with, or a blending foam along with some embossing ink. Then I'll pull the stencil away. And then I'm going to cover that with that Distress Embossing Glaze. And this color is Cracked Pistachio. And if you've never used the glazes before, they're really, really great. They're different than a regular embossing powder because these are transparent. So they'll still have the color, but they show the background through them. And that's absolutely very different than using regular embossing powders. If I used a regular one, you wouldn't be able to see the background through those stars. All right, so now that's good and cleaned off or heated, and I should have run my anti-static powder tool on it again, but I didn't. And I'm lining up the second stencil, which has 3 rows of stars. So we'll tack that down again, and I also should have cleaned up my embossing powder mess, but I didn't. I was so excited to move on to the next part. And you could very easily just keep the same color if you wanted, but I wanted to bring in another Distress Embossing Glaze. So I'm going to clean up my mess here. That's just in a coffee filter. Because I'm using embossing ink, I do have a little bit of time here. But I'm going to use some Tattered Rose. I just thought that would go really well with our dirty little background. It's not super in your face, but it is definitely a pretty color. A little bit of a rose tint to it, but it also kind of looks like an orangey rose tint. And yeah, you can see there's an area where I did get a little bit of the powder sticking where it shouldn't have. Now we're good, so I'm going to heat set that until that is smooth and melted, and then you can see how cool that background looks. You've got those nice subtle stars, but the dirty look is kind of showing through. I do want to trim this down. I started out with this being 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I'm going to cut it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches because I do want to have a bit of a border on that background. I'm bringing in a blending brush along with some antique linen distress ink just to distress the edges a little bit more, make it look a little more dirty because we have our dirty bunny. You wouldn't have to do your dirty bunny like he's dirty, but I just like it. I do have some Nina cream cardstock, and I'm inking up my bunny and the cup using a little bit of Simon Hurley Create Weeping Willow ink. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because those Simon Hurley Create inks are perfect to use with alcohol markers, and I wanted to stick to the brown theme. Typically, I use my black ink, but it's nice to know that there are inks that you can use, different colored inks with your with your Copic markers or your alcohol markers. So I stamped 2 sentiments on our cup, and basically it says Dirty Bunny Brew. Super cute. And I am using my Copics today. I haven't used those in a minute, but they had the colors that I was looking for. I mean, I shouldn't say I haven't used them in a minute. I use them with my Olo markers all the time. It can be done like that. It's just fine. That's the beauty of alcohol markers. You can usually use them together. And Copic has colors that Olo does not, and vice versa. So it's pretty nice to use them together. In this case, I'm only using my Copics because I was sticking to this particular color line. And I'm trying to put the colors up on the screen, but obviously with those Copic, I can't remember which ones those are, the little round ones. Chow, the Copic Chow. That one was an E93. And then I'm going to use a stippling effect here to make my Dirty Bunny have color. I just thought that was fun since he's got more of a curly look to him. And all it is pouncing color on there. And you do want to use some bigger circles, smaller circles, so you can use a variation in how you're putting that pressure down for your ink or your color. And then it just makes this really cute look. And then I'll go into my darkest color, E99, and I'll be a little bit more sparing with that, just using that where I think those low lights would be. And then I'll work backwards. This is basically how I color with my Copics or my alcohol markers in general. I go lightest to darkest and then work my way back if it doesn't blend the way I want it to. And so that's basically what I'm going to do here. I'll bring in that E35 and then our E53, and it kind of lightens that up just a little bit more. He's so cute with the little stippling. He looks so super curly. Very fun. And then I do bring in like that greenish color. We're using some G03, and I believe it's a G05 for the cup. I wanted that to match with our cracked pistachio embossing glaze in the background. But what a cute cup. And there's just so many cute little sentiments in there. My whole point with this one, when I was thinking about making this card, since it is a birthday card, was cleaning can wait, right? Now, I did say that this is part of a blog or a video hop. So down below in the description box, I'm going to have all the information that you need for this hop and the place to hop next. So make sure that you head down there after you're done here. All right, I'll tack on the dies, and look, this is what I was talking about. It cuts around his little hands so that you can put what you want in there. I'm using his cup, and then I do decide to bring in these scalloped or the Dainty scallop circle die, and I'm going to cut one out of some craft card stock just because I want him to stand out a little bit more. I want him to be, different or separated from that background a little bit. So I'll attach down my panel to a craft card base, just using some liquid glue. And then I'll do the same thing with the Dainty circle. We're going to attach that down using some more of that liquid glue. And then for the bunny, I'm going to use some adhesive foam strips. Now, if you take off the back of those adhesive foam strips, you can, the release paper, you can manipulate these really well. I'll show you. So I'm going to just keep them the size that they are, and I'll manipulate them around the bunny. And then I can just stick him down. And you can see he's holding his little mug. I did use some glue to attach that down. Our sentiment, again, that comes from the Punny Cup of Tea, wishing you a terrific birthday. I stamped that onto some more cream cardstock, and you can see I already have a banner of the craft cardstock ready to go. I'll trim down my sentiment using my guillotine trimmer, and then I can attach that to our craft piece. And I can trim that down, and then we can attach it to the front of our card. Super fun and easy. I could have used some foam tape, but I just glue it right down. And then I can't stop there. I've got to embellish. So we've brought in, these are the Seafoam embellishments. They matched perfectly with our cracked pistachio. And they're very subtle on that background, but I was pretty liberal with how many I put down. And I'll just use my pickup stick and some liquid glue to adhere all of those down. But again, this is a video hop, and that means there's a prize to be won. So hop along, enjoy all the new products that Trinity Stamps has released, and some of them that they brought back from the vault. Here's my card. I hope you love it. If you do, hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I'll see you soon in another video. Bye, everybody.